Noah or send
Yeah.
Dave or somebody.
I think it's a smart idea,
It is a smart idea. Once a month is too often.
even if it was every other month.
It means they don't have enough to do if they're doing it every month.
Are you from Island Air, sir?
I dug out your combination that I'm going to open your office. I was in the basement looking for something. I said, oh, we should make this back up in your office. And a combination of something.
Did you get your new curtains?
They're here. They're not up. Wait for the guys to install the curtain rest.
How's it going?
Good evening.
No Andrea?
Henry's on the phone. Tony's on the phone. All votes have to be by roll call.
All right.
See, they have that house or half of it down on the corner.
Yeah.
Expect by tomorrow morning somebody would live in it.
Where's it from?
30 Pocomo Road.
Oh, way out there.
Yeah.
Where's it going?
Corby Way.
Right,
I think that might be down off South Shore Road, but I'm not positive.
I assume it's not a mega mansion.
Well, they cut it in half. It's a good size house.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But I just told him I was going to complain, and so now I
Welcome to the conference room. Please dial the meeting number.
Justin has one of his piece up there on Brook Road. Just brought a house over, 2 parts.
That he's using for,
An office.
yeah, but now but they're still on the side of the road.
We are sorry you're
It's still on the
experiencing
side of the road.
difficulty. Please try again. Please dial the meeting number.
Oh, good.
Press the start.
I moved both of my houses.
I've been
Both of
experiencing
them.
a lot
My
of
house and my second dwelling. Saved
The
them both from
moderator
the
has
dump.
not yet started the meeting. Please wait.
One of them really nice. Like
You
built
are
in
entering the
87.
meeting. You are the moderator.
Like brochure.
In case you didn't know it.
Yeah.
Like a second dwelling, garage apartment, and small, but that's where I live. I live in like a 1-bedroom, but
Somebody just
yeah,
looked in.
Hello?
built them both myself.
Somebody on the conference call?
Yeah.
Yep, Andrea's here.
Hi, Andrea.
You're going to have to turn it up when we get going. The volume on the phone.
We're waiting for Tony.
He was iffy, but
Iffy?
he said he was going to try.
Okay. 6 hours ahead.
Yeah.
11 o'clock.
Plus I had to give him the international number for the, so I don't know if he's having problems.
Well, we'll start in 30 seconds.
Thanks for coming.
Is Noah coming, Tom?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission meeting for June 9, 2015. A reminder that this meeting is being recorded. Also, Commissioner Planzer is participating remotely, as perhaps will be Commissioner Bhaskaran. So all roll call votes tonight will have to be, all votes will have to be roll call. Tony, is that you?
It is I, yes.
Welcome. We've just started. I was noting that you and Ms. Planzer were participating remotely, and that all votes would have to be roll call votes. Are there any comments or objections to the agenda?
No.
Hearing none, it is adopted. The first item is to adopt the minutes of the workshop and the meeting on April 9, 2015, and also the meeting of May 12, 2015. Are there any comments or corrections to those minutes? You must be doing a pretty good job, Mrs. Topham.
and lazy.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes
I'll
of
make that
those,
motion.
the workshop and the meeting of May 12th? Is
I
there a
will make
second?
that motion.
Second.
Mr. Gasparo, thank you. Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mrs. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We have 2 warrants to ratify, May 20th, 2015, and June 3rd, 2015. Are there any comments on those? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you,
both
Mr. Gasparo.
warrants.
Second?
I'm seconding, but I was not involved with either one of them. Is that, what, can I do that?
Yes.
Okay, I second.
You don't have to vote, but you have to
Okay.
second.
No, I just, no.
Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
I'll abstain.
Thank you.
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo votes aye, and the chair votes aye. Thank you very much. Is there any public comment at this time? Hearing none. Mr. Rafter, would you give us an update, please, on the voluntary noise compliance program?
Sure. We had a meeting with Tom Cunningham of Island Air and went through the latest fly-friendly program that we have in the routes, and there was a bit of a communication error, so we clarified some items and issues. And Tom agreed to, try to get to fly the routes as best as possible. However, he was concerned about the one, I believe it was departures on 2-4, and what the potential cost implications may be, which they have subsequently sent to us, which is either in your packet or as a handout was sent out today. And we also, as we discussed at the last meeting, agreed that in May we would run an audit just so everybody knew how the process worked, but there would be no penalty assigned to it. And then in June, we'll do the audit, and we will take necessary the way it'll work financially is they will automatically take the incentive. If they're not in compliance, then we'll bill them back for the difference of 15%. And the results for May, Cape Air was 100%, Island Air 59%, Marine Home 100%, and Trade Winds 100%.
Who's AMA?
That's Marine Home.
So they weren't 100.
For
May, there was 66.
Oh, I don't know why I have them as
Yeah.
100, okay. NOAA subsequently did a look at it through June 5th, and at that time, Cape Air was 77%, Island Air 86%, and AMA 100%. So we've established the process. I think what's very interesting, though, too, is that the information supplied to us by Island Air identifying that the cost per departure would be in excess, I believe, of $90 or $95 for the routing on that one departure route. So that's where we are right now. We will, at the end of the month, run the full audit for the month and then take the appropriate steps with regard to the incentive.
Is there somebody who can explain this chart to me?
The NOAA chart?
The one, runway 24
Oh, okay.
departure operating cost by departure, and the
That one.
24, please, if you wouldn't mind stepping up to a microphone. I'm not sure that one, and identifying yourself, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Rose. I'm the chief pilot with Island Airlines.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for allowing me. I'm not sure I don't have the final copy that Noah sent out, so let me see if I can. That second one's supposed to be runway 26. All right, runway 6, I'm sorry, not 24. Okay. The second chart there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And what we did is one of our crew members, who's one of the more senior captains, has been working on this and working on times and everything. We did our final test yesterday. And basically it was for the Caravan to do the both departures, the one that was previously agreed on for the Caravan, where they fly back over the top of the airport, and then also to do the 2-engine departure. And for 2-4, it was an additional 15 minutes in flight time. For runway 6, it was an additional 10 minutes in flight time, which doesn't sound like a whole lot to a lot of people, but when you start talking money and over the,
Could you explain what this is? Because it's somewhere along the way it lost me.
Okay. He's kind of changed the headings on here a little bit from the information we gave him, because he went back and recomputed everything. But okay, so it takes us 20 minutes to do the flight in the Caravan using the old procedure. For the runway 24 departure, it takes us 35 minutes. That computes, if you break that down into tenths of an hour, that comes out to be 0.33 of an hour and 0.58. All maintenance costs are computed by the hour on aircraft and fuel burning costs and everything.
Right.
So on the fuel, we actually, the newer Caravans we have that are all glass cockpit have a way to totalize the fuel. So the fuel burn, we actually used a Caravan that had the new technology that could give the exact fuel burn for the different. And it came out to be about anywhere between 8, and I went with the lower number, 8 gallons of fuel, or to 9 gallons. It was in between on the runs that we did. The difference between the two. It was a little bit more than 8 gallons.
Are these numbers for both planes, or for, this is what I don't understand. Let's just do the Caravan.
This is all the Caravan, but it's if you fly the 2-engine departure with the Caravan.
I'm
Okay,
I'm very confused. I apologize, but
Okay.
so the cost per hour of operating the Caravan is $225, the way
Right.
you compute it.
Yes.
MX cost means what? The actual cost of a flight at 20
That's
minutes?
the maintenance cost.
Okay.
That's the maintenance cost per hour.
So is that added to the 225? What's the,
It's a fraction.
it's a fraction, that's right, it's a third roughly.
Yeah, so
Right.
the maintenance cost for this flight
For the 20-minute flight,
is
74.
$72.25.
74, okay.
And then,
And then the fuel cost is $425.
right.
So, and then the additional cost per trip, the way I read this for the Caravan, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, I'm just trying to get it clarified.
Okay.
The additional cost per trip appears to be 0.
Okay. If you do the current, the departure we've been doing, where you fly over the top of the airplane, that's the baseline figure. For the
Okay, so is this 2-engine departure really a mislabel?
Well, it's doing what we used to be, because I don't have a better term for it, I guess, but what used to be called the 2-engine departure. If we fly the
Cessnas.
If we
The Cessnas.
The non-single engine
The
departure.
402s,
well,
essentially.
but we're being told we have to fly the Caravan on the same departure as the 402.
I understand.
So that's what.
So
Oh,
that's
I
if
see.
we
All
fly-
right, I got you.
So if we fly the Caravan on the
All right, I think I understand now.
on that
It goes up to
procedure,
35
that's
minutes.
the additional fuel burn will be 8 gallons.
Right.
And then when you take the fuel cost and the maintenance cost, the total additional trip cost of flying that longer route with the Caravan is $90.25.
Okay. Do you all have this, Tony and Andrea?
Yes.
And do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand it?
No, not quite.
So basically, if we fly the way we used to fly it with the single-engine aircraft, you've got one cost. The additional cost for flying the
Noise abatement route.
noise abatement route.
Okay. Disregard the labels on the left. One is the standard departure, and the other is the noise abatement departure.
Right.
Okay.
Okay? That make more sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the difference is $90 a trip.
Yep.
And from runway 6, the difference is,
$72.25 a trip.
why does it use the same amount of fuel, additional fuel?
The runway 6 doesn't make sense.
It doesn't really, to me.
Because you're still having to go.
Runway 6.
You're going almost straight.
Oh, you're talking of, excuse me if I
Go
may.
ahead,
If you're
yeah.
on runway 6, then you're saying you're going to go out over Squam and come up the east side
Right.
as opposed to going across
Yes.
Folgers Marsh,
Okay. All right.
if I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the.
And that's a rounding issue on the same amount of fuel, because you're talking, it was a little over 8.
Well, it's a third of the additional time, so it's, it's a third of 8 is really what it is.
Yeah.
Should be. So it should be more like 5.5. Not, again, to be
Right.
picky, but to be accurate. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well, yeah, this is, I mean, this is helpful
Yeah.
information that
Okay.
I think that we didn't have.
The other thing I just want to point out on 6 is the tower does not like us making the left-hand turn and going around the side there because of arriving traffic. It
Toppy
interferes with
responded
their
to
arrival
Noah
traffic.
on that. There's a
Because
conflict.
if we're taking off on
issue
6,
there.
they're landing on 2-4, and it's a big headache for them. They prefer us to do the right turn and cross over the field.
Toppy has confirmed that there is a conflict concern.
Let me ask you a question. All these costs are based per hour,
Right.
but realistically, would you be scheduling more trips for the caravan if you didn't have the noise abatement routes to fly?
Well, we schedule based on passenger load, so there wouldn't necessarily be more trips.
So I mean, in theory, the maintenance costs and so forth could be the same for the two.
No.
Is it actual flying time?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
All maintenance costs are computed on flying time. Parts have to be replaced after so many hours on the aircraft, regardless, of number of trips or that type of thing.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Thank you. Where are we now, Tom?
Well, that's essentially where we are. I just wanted to brief you where we are in the audit process and the information that Island has brought back to us when, they said they will do their best to comply, but that there was a concern on these departures with regard to the cost impact.
So if I may?
Sir.
So I'm wondering if there might be a sort of meet-in-the-middle solution on the overall program where they've identified what is a main concern route, and then we may be able to, if we could come to a procedure that's allowable for this, if Island is able to follow the routes for, say, the arrivals and other procedures. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, for example, on the arrivals and landing runway 6 coming through Nantucket as opposed to, here we're only talking about, you've only shown us information on the departures.
Well, that seemed to be the main concern from the last meeting, and that's why I addressed that.
But I think we also get a lot and have had a lot that have to do with sort of over the Cisco and Hummock Pond area. And I'm wondering about, does the same apply for when you're arriving, being able to come through the Smiths Point route and over, or are you coming directly back over the water tower and then landing for the same reasons? I think this is a good start.
In a descent, it's a little bit different because you're burning a lot less fuel.
Yeah.
You're actually moving at a higher airspeed. The departure is the one with the big money deal. So yeah, that's definitely something worth looking at.
So we might be able to do something
Yeah.
along those lines, whereas if we help work to refine our policy as well, and then you have an understanding that the routes are followed, for example, on those routes that aren't costing as much money,
Right.
but that our procedure or policy is somewhat redrafted that allows for a particular operation that you've identified as.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any data where we haven't been in compliance on arrival. So I'd like, if that data exists, I'd like to see it, because for us, I don't know that there is any.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm just trying to find out too,
I have to
because
look.
we're going to look back to see. I think part of this is you guys are going to want the incentives,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
when we do our audits, we don't want to have any misunderstanding in terms of what is compliant and non-compliant, and then if you're following those other routes and we're making improvements sort of all the way around, realizing that none of this is going to be perfect. Aircraft, level of.
Does the audit include at all now arrivals? It doesn't, does it?
Yes.
I think it does, yeah.
Yes, it includes both directions.
Okay.
I did want to mention, too, though, that in our meeting with Island, we also had a meeting with the control tower, and in our discussions with the control tower chief, he said that some of his folks were essentially assigning an over-the-top flight without even a request because they automatically know that this one particular flight or captain's going to request it, so they just cut to the chase. And I said, well, look, we're talking to Island. You talk to your guys. Don't just give it, don't assume anything. These guys have said they're going to work their best to try to comply with the noise. Don't make assumptions for them, please. So he was going to discuss it with his staff as well. So.
And the other question sort of that I had back is if we're going to possibly modify so that this operation is a compliant operation, I think there should be an elevation, altitude, component to it that says, at a certain altitude, it is a compliant operation versus not. And then maybe, and again, I think as part of, just having gotten this sort of the hour before the meeting, and I think as part of the program, what we talked about the last time was that we wouldn't get into this was sort of still looking at it, a trial period.
Right.
Maybe over the course of the next month, we look to refine it a little bit.
Then implement.
Before we implement the actual stuff as a continuation of exactly this sort of thing.
Refining the program, and then once we're all in agreement with it, we can then institute
Yeah,
the
this is,
incentive.
in my opinion, this is good. This is sort of getting everybody to the table again, clarifying a policy and incentives and stuff that hadn't been looked at for hopefully the benefit of everybody. You guys get the discount.
Right.
Some of the community members get a little less traffic in certain situations.
So we will defer the incentive.
One more month, I
One more
would
month
think.
until we get this refined a little, okay?
Does that
And
work?
We'll work
That's
with you
fine
on
with
it.
me.
I think we probably need to take a vote on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just
And
wondering
I
if
can tell you right now, what the pilots are trained to do is when they make that turn over the top, is to make it so when they hit the shoreline, they're above 2,500 feet. If they go much further out than that, depending on winds, because winds have a big factor in this, then they get beyond power-off gliding distance, which in a single-engine airplane you can't do. But the other thing that I think could be part of this evaluation process, if we can somehow get a reading on the noise level when the airplane's crossing over, because the Caravan really is one of the quietest airplanes made. If you compare it with the noise level of a 402, it's huge.
And Noah has done some work on computing that. I don't know if he's gone through it with you
No,
with
he
the
has not,
slant
not yet.
distances and things, so we need to sit down with them again and show them the approach that Noah's looking at, coming up with that component. It's very technical mathematical computation, but I think you'll see what he's done.
Okay.
Hopefully we can agree to an altitude and things, because
Right.
there are a number of times where you're not in compliance because the altitude is not at 2,500 until you get across to the other side of the island. So.
Oh, okay. And if that's the case, we can address that and, make sure we make the adjustments. Sometimes it is a problem. You're climbing up with a certain winds, then you get a little bit higher, and you make your turn, and they pick up.
Yeah.
And so I'm not making an excuse that that's what happened on each case, but I'd love to look at that on a case-by-case basis, because I can, then I can do counseling with the individual crew member and see why that was. Was he turned early by air traffic control, or was it just
Right.
he got in a hurry?
Okay.
Mrs. Topham, do you have any comments?
I'm confused with what's over the top. Sorry, whatever you're saying. I'm showing my
And
ignorance.
correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but sometimes if you're departing
If you look
too
at the
far,
second-
the controller may
I don't have many.
just automatically,
This is over the top.
give you direction, right turn over the top.
Right.
They're departing, they make a right turn right over top of the island, and
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or
Well,
2-4 would be
yeah.
a
Left
2-4 would be a
turn.
left turn over the top, and 6 would be a
Right,
right
6
turn
would
over
be-
the top. And the right turn over the top is actually they give that because they want to for traffic anyway
yeah.
on 6, because it's very obviously we're going straight on with the arriving traffic on 2-4 if we turn left.
And I'm anxious to hear that, with the FAA and the tower, what they think finally when they decide what they're going to do, because I just don't want us to have any kind of an accident happening.
Well, no, that's why Patrick has weighed in on
Right.
some of this in terms of conflict and where it just doesn't work.
Right.
And then one
They have
last,
final say anyway.
we're talking, about the main runway, but what about the 1-5 departures? same thing back over the top, or are you going around the outside?
No, on the one, we're doing the noise abatement procedure on that. every
And
time.
that's fine with
Oh,
you?
yeah, that's
So,
not-
so,
yeah,
so
those-
really, because I've
These
seen a
are,
lot.
these are the biggest concerns we have, and I just went with the departures, like I said, because
Okay.
that's all I've
Well,
heard the complaints on.
I mean, again, I think that there's been a lot of variation where I think I've seen quite a few of back over the top off of 1.5 as well. And if you're able to follow the routes on that, and this is the identified.
Part of our
one.
meeting was, again, I think there was a communication gap when we changed the process.
Yep.
So Tom said, they would do their best to comply with the new one, and that's where he indicated they didn't have any problem with the 1533, but he wanted to look at the 624, and that's exactly what they've done, so.
Well, again, I thank you for coming in and working with us. This is what I had hoped to have happen.
Mr. Buscarin, do you have any comments?
No, I don't. Of course, not being there, I can't see the schematic, although I guess I could pull it up on the computer. I've got the exhibits here. But I understand what the pilot's saying, and, I appreciate their contribution in trying to comply with the noise problem.
Ms. Planzer?
No, I don't have any comments.
Okay. I wasn't here, as you know, the last time, although I was participating remotely. I would just like to make the observation, having been in business all my life, I understand the motive in not wanting to spend any more money than you have to. On the other hand, and from the airport's perspective, we also want to make sure we have proper air service. But there's a middle ground where we have to respect the community. And especially people who live in areas that didn't used to be part of the routes and have ended up more recently being under airplanes, but everybody. And we have to find the best balance we can between the economic interests and the, if you will, the social interests, in my view. And so we appreciate your cooperation. I mean, we're not going to, from my perspective, I'm not going to give you everything you want. I don't know whether the rest of the commission, I can't speak for the rest of the commission. But I do think hopefully we can work out some middle ground that is satisfactory to, it won't be entirely satisfactory to anybody if it's the best solution.
Well, the other thing I would just ask if we can do some kind of actual noise testing, because I think we'll find with the Caravan, because it is so quiet, that when we're doing an over-top the maneuver, flying over the top of the airport at whatever altitude we decide,
2,500 plus.
let's say 2,500 plus, I don't think anybody's going to really be able to hear the airplane other than if they're looking at it, they might be able to just barely hear it out of their ears, because this is, it is so much quieter than
It's all perception.
I know, and the problem is, I know with a noise abatement procedure, you see the airplane, therefore it's noisy. But if we had some good facts to back
there
up
are
that
people who say the Caravan is much noisier. Based on what? Who knows?
I believe NOAA's going to be working towards that.
Well, I think
Okay.
what I was going to suggest in closing was that you and Noah are going to become best friends over the next.
we probably had 30 or 40 emails to get today back and forth.
Hopefully in a positive sense. And so I look forward to being able to work something out with you that works.
Agreed.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think we should take a vote to postpone, if somebody cares to make a motion to postpone
I'll make a
final enforcement and implementation until the July meeting.
That is my motion.
I'll second.
How do you vote, Mrs. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
Mrs. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
The chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to pending leases and contracts, of which there are several.
Do you want me to go through these individually? Or
By the way, what are we doing about their lease?
I know you left a little early. I think we should discuss it,
Yeah.
as well as Cape Airs.
I think we should, my own personal opinion is we should go ahead and approve both of them.
That's
And
my
then-
feeling on the basis that they've come to the table.
Right. So, they're part of the package. You want to talk about them all briefly?
The first is Hyannis Air, again, familiar with that, Cape Air. Well, it's not Cape Air, but it's the other part of it. Wiggins, Freight, typical operating agreement, Island Airlines, Sales Seafood for catering events on the beach. The Nantucket Express is no longer pending. They paid their business fee, and that's a charter 135 operator, Mr. Walsh. JetBlue and United still have not yet returned the agreements, still going through their legal process. Scheiten Bachmann is just an amendment to extend the contract because of the timing issue with regard to the gate housing that we're waiting delivery of. The New England Fire and Equipment Apparatus is for the inspection and servicing of our fire trucks. And ShoreTel, we're going to have to postpone that until the next meeting because they have not yet returned the contract either, and that was for the phone system.
Is there any questions or comments?
I just have,
I have a
Go ahead,
question or
Andrea.
comment about the Wiggins Airways.
Go ahead.
It's an operating agreement, and they're paying their annual business fee, but it's written as if it's a lease, and is very different from the other operating agreement, the Nantucket Express. I just wondered why is it written
Why is it written as a lease?
like that when they're just paying the $1,500 annual business fee?
I don't know the answer to that.
May I suggest that if they've already signed it, that we should go ahead and sign it this year and then look into whether the general
it's-
question of what kind of agreement people who just pay business fees should sign? Is that all right with you, Andrea?
That's okay. Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know why it's
It is a
different.
good question. Any other? Do you have one,
just,
Mr.
just
Sparrow?
a, just a comment, just a comment on the Cape Air lease. I saw that when Noah did his first week of June compliance, Cape Air was way off of compliance.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, have they come to the table the way Island Air has? Have you had a discussion with them?
Not yet, but I have a meeting with their president this Friday.
Okay. And again, I'm willing to, as I had said at the last meeting, I'm not looking to, I'm willing to, I'll vote for these, and I'm happy that they came. I just want to be sure that there's that clause of the lease and that the leasees are aware of it and that we're,
Communicating
thank you.
with them.
Yep.
Anything else? Any other questions or comments? Andrea, did you have another one?
No, I don't.
All right.
So I'd make a motion to approve the pen and leases contracts agreements as shown on Exhibit 1, accepting, as described by the manager, I believe it was
JetBlue and United.
and ShoreTel?
JetBlue, United, and
United.
ShoreTel.
United and ShoreTel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Planzer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, moving along. We have the updates on a couple of things.
On the pending matters, the formerly used defense site, we had a conference call with the Army Corps of Engineers regarding what has been termed the debris tree pile. It's at the end of the lots, right along the edge of Bunker Road there. That has to be removed as part of the overall Army Corps plan. It was agreed that they would develop the work plan and provide unexploded ordnance support during the removal of those trees, and we will either do it in-house or through a contractor and either chip or burn the remaining branches and trees that are there. They will take care of the root bulbs, I believe, and any dirt. So we're awaiting. We made comments on the draft work plan. They were going to make the necessary changes, and then we're coordinating a schedule for that activity after the inspection this week, where I believe we're looking at the 22nd, if I'm not mistaken, later this month to begin that. Any questions on that or comments? I have no movement on the general fund repayment proposal. I have not heard from Brian. He was out for a few days, so I'll get back to him and see if there's any movement on that. And on the carbon neutral program, we have a date set for June 30th at 1 o'clock to meet with the MassDOT and Volpe team.
What time did you say it was going to be, please?
1 o'clock on June
Thank you.
30th.
All right. Any questions on any of those things? Master plan update?
We had a bit of a delay in getting the financial section, but we do have the revised financial section of the master plan. Jamie has gone back and forth with the consultant, just modifying some things, correcting some numbers, updating it, and that's in the final stages. The next step will be that the consultant will create a white paper with regard to rates and charges. They would like to send that to us, have us circulate it, and then put together the appropriate personnel to have a sit-down discussion, open discussion on that. And I would suggest that it would be a representative from the FinCom and probably Brian Turbot as the finance director, as well as whoever the commission chair believes appropriate for the commission. So that we'll probably be setting that up within the next few weeks. We just need to discuss.
I think unless somebody doesn't want to be there, I think the whole commission should be there.
Okay. I will double check. I don't think there's an issue, as a public meeting, but.
We'll have to post it.
Okay.
And you don't have a date for that yet?
We do it as a workshop,
No.
so we don't have to talk
Yeah,
to
that's probably a good
talk
idea.
to anybody.
No, once we get the paper, we will circulate it for your review, and then we'll get together that meeting and have a discussion as to, which direction we want to go on that.
All right, thank you. The GA building update?
As you know, we're working to close that out. In your packet, there are two last change orders that need to be ratified, and the numbers are in there and how it ties back to what we'll be discussing later with regard to the final pay rec for that.
All right.
So we need
so we need
ratification.
approval of payment of this one change order, right?
The two change orders, ratifying the
Two
two.
change orders, I'm sorry.
Right.
I would make a motion to approve PCO number 3 and PCO number 28B.
I'll second that motion.
Is there further discussion? How do you vote, Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo? The chair votes aye. Hopefully another step in that process.
Done.
All right, now we have the union contract.
The union contract, there were a couple of minor, what I'll consider housekeeping items that in the latest version weren't addressed that we finally addressed, and it was just changing some of the title names, recognizing one and taking another out. It was just clarification issues, essentially. We have sent that to the union. They've agreed. They said they attached something, or our attorney asked them to sign and send us two back. So what I would like to do is ask the commission, I beg your indulgence, to ratify it as is in your packet with the red line version. And once we actually get the signed copy, then we can ask the commissioners to sign it. The reasoning there, again, is that it's effective July 1st. And we've all agreed to everything. We have the emails back and forth, our attorney and the representative. And it's just a matter of getting the hard copy of the final.
There's no change of substance, is there?
None, no.
From what we saw and ratified before in the memorandum of understanding.
Yeah, this was just clarification type issues. They missed some of the things in the other discussions that we just said, you forgot to put this letter in or this language or, this word or whatever.
All right. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to ratify, once again, the union contract dated 7/1.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Thank you. Mrs. Topham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Are we done with that now?
Well, once we get you to sign it, we get them to sign it, and you to sign it, then it's done.
Good. We have 3 MassDOT grant
Yes.
issues to deal with.
The first is an actual grant, and that is for a vehicle, for our operations vehicle. You may recall, we purchased a new Airport 11, and that's for $45,396, which we're very thankful to have from MassDOT, because we're hearing that there will be no ASMP funding available next year, possibly. The next 2 were simply extensions for prior grants received, because the projects are still open. So I think,
All right, do we need motion, we need a motion to accept the grant, and on the grant assurances, right?
yes.
Do we need a motion too on the extensions?
I believe,
I would, just to keep
Yeah.
it safe.
All right, well, let's do this separately. We'll have one motion on the grant acceptance, of $45,396 for an ACME V, an ACT maintenance vehicle, and
I'll make that motion.
we have the truck already, do we
Yes.
not? Yes.
Right.
So there's no danger of that going away. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gasparo. How do you vote, Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Mrs. Topham?
Aye.
And Mr. Gasparo votes aye, and the chair votes aye. I guess you better say aye.
I did.
Oh, I'm
I was
sorry.
quiet.
Didn't hear it. All right, then we have 2 extensions. I think we can cover those in one vote for MassDOT contract extensions. Because of, one's because it's taking longer to complete, and the other is because it's tied in with the security upgrades.
they're both open projects.
Right, they're
yes.
both open projects, exactly.
I make a motion to extend the 2 grants.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that motion.
And how do you vote, Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
Thank you. The chair votes aye. All right. The manager's report.
I'll try to keep this short, but it's fairly lengthy. On the security project, the ramp light is supposed to begin installation tomorrow. They resolved the issue last week with the access panel. That was installed, so Kobo is due out tomorrow to put the light in. I've asked for a credit because of the delay in time for that, and I've also asked for a full credit for the training piece that we are rejecting. The subcontractor was unable to demonstrate how they would meet the requirements of the advisory circular for the security system. It's supposed to be a fully interactive system with automatic data collection and record keeping, and it was not an automatic system. You had to manually go in and get it. It was not stored anywhere or anything else. So, and Bob was thoroughly dissatisfied with the product. It was essentially taking his work and just putting it into a PowerPoint and putting some other things to it. And it was not an acceptable product, so we're rejecting that, and we'll put it out as another package under another project. The North Apron rehabilitation, we've been advised by legal that we need to rebid that because there was a change in the scope. If they were willing to just reduce their price and keep the scope, we could have kept it, but it was a material change in the scope, so that's been rebid, and the bids are now due June 24th. The air traffic control tower, in the process of finalizing the contracts. Janine and Rick Holland have been doing a tremendous job putting that together, and we're getting ready to send out the notice of award to the apparent low bidder. The phone system, as we said, will be pushed back one more month. The flight information display systems, the vendor came in, replaced 2 of the screens, looking at adding an additional monitor to the air taxi gate. I met with the vendor at the conference in Philadelphia that I just came from. He actually showed and demonstrated the app online, how it will be displayed with the flights and things, and we'll be doing that immediately after the beginning of the fiscal year. The runway painting, you may have in your, I believe you have in your packet a complaint from a JetBlue customer that was delayed coming out of Boston, and that was because our crews were trying to paint the runway. They coordinated with air traffic control. JetBlue wouldn't release their flight until we opened the runway. We had a very short window between the end of the winter, or bad weather, if you will, and our inspection, and they were doing their best to try to paint as much as they could. In fact, Johnny and the maintenance crew, and I want to give them a thank you for this, they actually took one day and said, we will work late and just leave early the next day. So they shut the runway down at like 3 o'clock one day until maybe 11 o'clock at night. They got the center line done, some other things. Tonight is the night inspection, so we'll see how it all came out. But they've been working diligently at trying to get that runway painted between flights and weather and everything else.
I was on that JetBlue flight, and I didn't identify myself.
Well, as you'll see in my response, it's not just a matter of a sunny day weather. It's, we can't have winds, or there's overspray, so there's a lot of issues that you have to take into
I thought your letter was very good.
Thank you. The FBO parking lot layout has been completed. We did look at that, Arthur. There wasn't enough room,
Yeah, I
as you
saw
can
it.
probably see. It seems to be working well. If you have any feedback or get comments, please let us know if we need additional signage or anything.
Is the signage going up now?
Most of it, I think there's one sign that might be missing.
I had just one comment. Are you going to put curb stops along the
Along
fence
the-
so that people don't pull into the
Yes.
fence? Okay.
And I'm not sure if it's curb stops or timber, but I think
Yeah.
Johnny said he has timber, so he's going to do it because it's cheaper, but yes.
Just something.
Yeah, we
What-
want to protect the fence.
One question, can you come in the way we originally did, or do you have to come around with the taxi stand, seeing as how I came in the other day and didn't know quite what to do?
You come in the normal main entrance as if you're going to the terminal.
Right, and
Pass
then
the
take a
taxi
right.
stand and make the right.
Okay,
That's the change in the flow.
okay, thank you.
And police department was helpful, got it out on their social media and things too, so we're getting the word out there.
I would have thought the only ones who might have a problem with it would be the taxi drivers, because of the fact that they are, basically they've got people cutting across them.
Yeah.
We briefed them before we did this, and they actually liked it. The spot that we all had anticipated being the FBO cab is actually becoming, if you will, the last in the queue for the terminal. And then the first in the queue
That
is
makes
being
sense.
called out. And if you recall, last year there were issues with them having to back in and things like
right.
that. This makes it much easier for them, so
Right.
the proof will be in the next upcoming months when we get
Busy
extremely
months.
busy.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense. You can feed them, feed the
Right, they
taxis
just get in
now.
the flow,
Yeah.
so. The parking lot, the repairs to the exit housing, as I said, it's due to be shipped any moment. I haven't had a chance to catch up in the past few days with Robbie, but it was coming from Germany, and then we have to schedule a time for Scheidt & Bachmann to come out and do the install. The best thing I can say right now is we're communicating on a regular basis with Scheidt & Bachmann and their team, and we're developing some solutions for things. We're working on a transition plan to go from chip coin to barcode. We'll discuss later, there may be some funding available for that. Whether that expedites the process or not, if there is money available, it'll expedite it. If not, we're looking at a plan where we will purchase some additional spare parts to get us through the transition period and then eventually switch over. We're also looking at, after the beginning of the fiscal year, updating the servers and the software aspect of it. And they've been doing some remote diagnostics to verify that the issues and challenges that we've been having, a number of them should be addressed through some of the software upgrades. So the good news, as I say, is that we're communicating, working with them, and they're working to improve it. Another point on that is that our seasonal maintenance individual will be trained on that system and will be working on Sundays, so that there's a maintenance individual out there to address it as opposed to pulling from operations or the FBO. So that'll be helpful. On the RFP side of the house, I believe I mentioned before, we received bids for the snow removal piece of equipment. It was estimated to come in at $917. And the apparent low bidder that we're going to be issuing an award to is Kodiak for $698,700. We received bids on the fence repairs. You may recall the fence was damaged during a number of the snowstorms that we had. The bid came in excessively high, probably 4 or 5 times the estimate. And so we're looking into what our options are from a procurement perspective, if we can go back and get them itemized justification or reject the bid or whatever, but essentially we can't afford what they want for the repairs there. Continuing to work on the bids for the tug, we have awarded a little bit of a change to our ARF training individual. We're going with a different firm. Got a better price. I'm also still working on the advertising RFP and the Sun Island Road parcels. On the Sun Island Road parcels, it's kind of opening up a little bit of a can of worms because I'm looking into our overall leases, and as I discussed with Commissioner Gasparo, working on developing a lease policy for all leases for the airport. And there's actually a study out there on best practices for that. So, of course, then that opens up another can because it refers back to rules and regulations. And when I look at the rules and regulations, they're not current. So I'm also working on a review of the rules and regulations as well. I have in the packet a draft electronic device policy that I would ask the commissioners to review, and I would look for your approval after receipt of comments at the next meeting. What drove this essentially was we're using tablets and other electronic devices in the work area out on the airfield and so on, but we just recently purchased a tablet that an individual will be able to take home and perform maintenance related items from home essentially. So it was a policy to hopefully address the use of personal devices as well as airport purchase devices and accessing our networks and things like that. So if you could please review that and provide me comments, I would greatly appreciate it. On the topic of transportation network providers, there's a number of terms that they're being called. The latest is app-based transportation providers, because it is not just the Uber, Lyft, and sidecars, but there's other ones that are starting to get into this in other forms. The good news is that San Francisco Airport has worked with the American Association of Airport Executives to create a solution for addressing that and making sure everybody remains in compliance with the grant assurances. It essentially is establishing a geofence around your airport, entering into an agreement with AAA, who has an agreement with these providers. They will provide data. There's 4 points. It's when they enter and exit the airport, and when they pick up or drop off a passenger. And then you establish your fees accordingly. The fees would be collected by the AAA, who gets all the data and coordinates it with the users, and then they keep a percentage, and we would essentially get the rest. We would have to establish rules and regulations, and they have a template that they're going to be sending out to the airports. So if you're familiar with the Ping 4 system that the town uses, that's the same thing. You establish a geofence, and it automatically, what it does is it ties into their app, and it gets agreement from them. So we're also in the process of setting up a meeting with Uber to discuss this and make sure they're on board with it too. So, we've received some feedback in writing and verbally from some customers of small aircraft with regard to the change in our fees, the ramp fees and so on. And they asked essentially that we consider possibly a waiving of fees or reduction if they were to supply, let's say, a receipt from the restaurant. I know in our initial discussions when we were looking at the rates, we were kicking that around as an idea, but I would just ask the Commission to think about that, because we're going to have to come back at the next meeting most likely with an adjustment to the rates because there were a couple of minor things that we didn't include. For example, in Cape Air is now going to be operating an Islander. It's very close to the 402. It's a 9-seater. It's a little bit slower. I think it might be even a little bit smaller. But we didn't identify a rate for the signatory operators for that type aircraft. So there are some minor changes that we still need to do, and I don't know if we have to go back to a full public hearing or whatever. But
I think we do.
well, that's why I just wanted to put this out there, so food for thought when we do go back, if we want to consider that.
Well, if we could roll them all up and do them at the same time, it would be great.
That's why I just wanted to get it out for discussion. The Wine Festival.
Did you have a question, Mr.
Well, I was going to say on the rebate system, I would be, anything that the staff could come up with as a suggestion.
Our initial discussion or thoughts were, okay, a receipt is fine, but it should probably be for at least an X amount.
A certain amount of
Right.
money.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say, not just
And then
for
whether
summer.
it's,
Is this the $5 landing fee they're talking about?
it's, I think the ramp fee. It's a combination because we've implemented, the ramp fee was not enforced previously. We're now enforcing ramp and landing, so it appears as a big hit, even though it was on the books before it was not collected. So I don't know if we want to consider a waiver or not. I will look at that, talk to staff, and we'll come back with a recommendation.
You might also talk to the restaurant people and see how they feel.
When
sure
we
they-
talked about this before, I had discussions with Larry, and he was all for it. He thought it was a great idea, try to get more people in for breakfast or whatever. So, Wine Festival event was held. I have my notes here without issue, but there were some issues with regard to the aircraft side of the house and timing and coordination and those types of things. The other items, there were a couple timing issues, but we have a meeting to critique it with the Wine Festival folks on June 26th, so we'll go through our notes and determine whether or not we want to recommend continuing with that event. Our FAA inspection is underway. Began.
I would, hopefully you will bring that back to the commission sooner rather than later.
Yes.
So if your recommendation was to be not continue, that they'd have adequate notice?
Notice, certainly. The FAA inspection began today. As I mentioned, this evening at 8:30 we'll begin our nighttime inspection. Tomorrow they will go through the fueling, the wildlife, and continue with the paperwork. Today they did the timed response. Everything went very well on that. They did the airfield inspection. There were some minor issues with that are going to require some recurrent training with an individual. But everything else appears to be moving along fairly well. Along those same lines, we briefed the inspector that we have engaged this Viochi company for automated self-inspection. You may recall a long time ago, that's what I was calling this software, was automated self-inspection. The Viochi company does not only self-inspection, fire, fuel, crisis, accident management, but it's a very unique system in that they give you the building blocks and you can create and solve some of your own problems. In fact, I just came from the conference and they were giving a speech to a group of people, a demonstration, and they were using Janine's name as an example of what she created with regard to our lease management situation. So we're using it now for lease management. We're using it for purchase orders. Jamie did a fantastic job with their software person. Within a week, had a turnaround and took from a paper process to an automated process. So we're doing a lot with that system, and there's a lot more that can be done. So it's good stuff.
If I could add one thing to that, Tom, and Noah also did an online complaint form
Yes,
with
that's
that,
right.
which was
Yeah.
excellent.
And the turnaround time to be able to do it, again,
Yeah.
it's unique in that they give the airport the ability to do it and build their own things. Most companies that we reviewed would either want an additional fee for another module, or they want additional money for software upgrades, or they claim they're working on it and it'll be out in the next version. These folks guarantee free upgrades to their software versions too. I just want the commissioners to be aware we're participating in something called the Bay State Challenge, and I apologize I don't have all the details, but it's essentially a GA group and encourages people to fly or drive to various airports throughout the state. And there's a passport that you have, and we have a stamp, and you get the stamp when you come in. And it's just something, you know, to create some excitement or energy about trying to get folks out and fly. So we're working on that. We do have statistics. Unfortunately, they're not good. The operations for the month are down 8.4% and 10.6 year-to-date.
There wasn't any particular weather or anything in April, was there?
No, Dan, there's nothing that jumps out at me here, and that's why we're a little concerned. Enplanements are down 10% for the month, and year-to-date 5%. Now, this is April, so there was a little bit of weather in the beginning of April. Jet A gallons down 1% for the month and just about flat for the year. Avgas is up 14% for the month, but down 5.3 year-to-date.
It's the second month in a row avgas has been up, isn't it?
And we're not sure what's going on there, but I did receive a call from Island Air that they want to talk to us about fuel. I don't know exactly if they want to purchase more or what. It could be that there's an issue in Hyannis. I don't know. And that's what we'll see. I mean, remember that one month it jumped up, the truck was broken down for a period of time. So,
Just by way of comparison, in April and May, the first 3 weeks of May, the fast ferry was up 28%. And the number is much bigger than our down number.
much, yeah.
It's like 3 times.
And again, I have this meeting set with Cape Air on Friday. The president called and asked for the meeting, and I'm not sure what they want to discuss, but I'm hearing rumblings that they're going to be making some significant changes. They have a number of scheduled flights this summer for Boston, so I want to see what their plan looks like. Freight was down, and the noise complaints were up.
And are we getting information from the freights? Wasn't that something you were going to do?
Well, we're still unable to audit them,
Okay.
but we're going to be changing that reporting to a daily report. We had some changes to make to the bigger report first.
Hey, well, for small packages, they charge a flat fee, regardless of the weight. I don't know what the maximum weight is for that, $15. But I do know that, things like dry cleaning and stuff come over, and it's $15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my computer was £6, $15.
Right. So they must have a record in their system of what they're transporting. And it's a little bit like the self-reporting on the passengers. It seems to me that they have an obligation to provide as much backup as they can. If we can put the responsibility on them for
Just sending us the report.
sending us the reports, that would seem to me the easiest way to do it.
Okay.
Well, I did speak to Mr. Rose about the incident of them not manning their stations, we'll say, or their whatever, and he said they're having trouble with people, hiring people, staying, and so they were looking to hire more people from the flying them from the mainland. So, just wanted to let that was an issue with them.
There's been a significant issue, not just with Island, but others, on retaining employees. The turnover rate that I'm hearing from our security department about the Rectrix group is probably up in the 60% range. It's a very high turnover. Some of it has to do with housing, others disciplinary issues. So I don't know if that's a sign of the season,
Well, I
or what?
mean, it's been a problem over at Cape and Islands Air Freight for some time.
It has, okay.
It's not a new problem over there.
On the hiring side, the second round of operation staff began June 1st. All of the security guards are back on. The FBO staff, seasonals are fully staffed, and our maintenance seasonal begins the second week in June.
All right, are you going to give us, I thought we'd agreed that you were going to give a list of names and positions to us when you hired people, so I think,
Oh, okay. I thought you had that in the last handout, because I still have that from...
still,
You want the seasonal, you want that for the seasonal?
I think it should be for everybody.
Okay.
Does the commission agree or not?
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Well, I know we got it one time, but I don't know. I
Yeah,
know-
we'll
I
send
know
you
nothing.
the full list of who it is and when they start, and what
I
department.
think we just need to sort of put our
Okay.
blessing on that. May, would you put that noise statistic chart back up, please? I missed it, and I can't find that part in my packet. So, you can, I'm just curious, you did, I don't recall you mentioning the noise.
Noise, there were 3 in April versus 0 last year.
For April.
And again, the noise, we have to look at and understand. I don't know that we're measuring apples to apples here, because I think there were some issues with being able to report last year. With this new online reporting capability, I think we're going to get closer to true records.
So there was one potentially legitimate complaint.
That was investigated, yes.
All right, thank you.
And if you haven't seen on the website the new
I did,
portal,
yeah.
it's,
Pretty amazing.
I think it's about a 10-minute delay, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But it is very helpful. And you can see from Noah's report, you can go in and gather a lot of data. That's one group I didn't get to meet with when I was at the conference, is Excellus. The only other item I have is a request for travel for August 15th through the 19th to attend the Northeast chapter of the American Association of Airport Executives Conference in Baltimore, Maryland. I'd like to attend that.
Is there
Past
a motion
president.
to approve that?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
How do you vote? Ms. Tompkins?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
The chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Subcommittee reports, there haven't been any meetings. Are we still trying to get to a meeting of the,
The Long-Range Planning
Planning.
Committee, yes.
okay. All right. Commissioners' comments?
No?
I just had 2. Tom just hit on it, so I don't want to be redundant, but I wanted to thank everyone, the staff, for getting the Excellus and the public view system working, and for the public, if you haven't seen it, I had suggested to Noah to talk to Tom that I thought a press release would be a good idea.
And our social media, too.
He's done the social media end of things, but I was thinking, I think he was a little hesitant. I said I wouldn't put anything about it being about noise or anything. It's so much that the airport has a new and improved system for viewing aircraft around the island, if you're interested.
Right.
And
Or tracking.
It's
Yep.
yeah, it's
'Cause
not
we used
about
to have one. It's just
complaining or
yeah.
anything. It's about what we're doing for the public. And I
If
thought
you want
that
to
might
track
be
and see when somebody's coming in.
if you
yeah,
send it to
sure.
the INM and get it in one of the business brief column or whatnot, that it might be a good idea to get it out there. And then, it's really, and he's done a really good job updating the website and sort of the concerns I had before about that no one knew where to go. He check. I think it's really good. My other concern is, and maybe I should have brought this up during the leases and contracts, but the fact that JetBlue and United are operating without the leases, that this year we got all of our stuff out early, and for whatever reason that they're still not signed. One, I'm not thinking we're going to correct this right now. One thought I had was perhaps it would be helpful if there was actually a policy at a commission level that the staff could use give back to these airlines, and perhaps some sort of a penalty clause. Now, again, whether that's enforceable or not, but might trip them on their administrative side to try to do it. I don't know if, it's just a thought I had that,
I'll keep that in mind when developing this lease policy and see what kind of language we can come up with.
thanks. That was all I had, thanks.
Anything else, Mr. Buscarin, Ms. Planzer?
No?
No comments.
Thank you. All right, is there public comment at this time? Hearing none. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session under General Law 30A, Chapter 20, Section 21A, and Clause 3. First, to review executive session minutes as enumerated, and under Clause 3, to discuss strategy with respect to threatened litigation with respect to the completion of the General Aviation Building. The chair has determined that an open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the Airport Commission.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Not to return to open session.
Not to return to open
Right.
session, thank you.
If the commission wants, I don't know if you
I'd
want
like to have Janine stay, yes.
Janine.
She'll be
she has
listed
lot
as a
of knowledge
guest.
in that area. Sorry.
Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
Mr. Drake votes aye. All right, we got a couple things to sign, right?
Yes.
And he knows we're finished, I guess.